Imagine this with me for a moment. A lone figure, silhouetted against the setting sun on some remote, untamed island. They're battling not just the relentless forces of nature, the hunger, the elements, the sheer exhaustion, but maybe most terrifying of all, they're battling each other, all for that ultimate title of sole survivor. It's like this iconic image, a really powerful narrative we've all come to know so well, right? But here's the burning question. How much of what we actually see on Survivor is truly raw, unscripted survival? And how much is, well, a masterful, almost theatrical construction designed to really pull us in? Today on The Deep Dive, we are not just scratching the surface. We are plunging headfirst into the very heart of this reality TV phenomenon that is Survivor. We're going way, way beyond the carefully edited episodes to peel back every single layer, from the meticulously planned production secrets that uphold this incredible illusion to the complex game theory that underpins every strategic move, every fleeting alliance, and every shocking, often heartbreaking betrayal.
There is just so much more to Survivor than meets the eye, and we're here to unravel it all for you. For this deep dive, we've gathered a really fantastic mix of sources. We've got these incredibly fascinating, really candid behind-the-scenes accounts directly from the camera operators and the intrepid crew members who actually live and breathe this show. We've pored over in-depth statistical analyses that try to predict success and unveil hidden patterns, and we've explored these detailed game theory breakdowns that reveal the sort of hidden logic behind human interaction under pressure. We even have insights from a preseason interview with an upcoming contestant, a self-proclaimed superfan, who shares their pre-game mindset, which is fascinating. Our mission today is basically to extract the most surprising, maybe even jaw-dropping nuggets of knowledge from all of this, giving you a real shortcut to being truly well-informed about one of television's greatest and certainly longest-running social experiments. We'll explore what it really takes to outwit, outplay, and outlast, not just for the contestants we see on screen, but for that massive, dedicated team behind the cameras who make it all possible.
It's quite incredible when you really stop and think about the sheer scale and ingenuity involved. The show presents this incredibly compelling narrative of individuals isolated, struggling against all odds, yet the vast, sophisticated infrastructure required to create and maintain that illusion. It's truly mind-boggling. It's a testament to human ingenuity on both sides of the camera. You've got the raw, competitive spirit of the players, and then the meticulous precision of the production team.
Absolutely. It's such a fascinating dichotomy. And that brings us right to our first major revelation. The stark contrast between the illusion of isolation we see and the bustling production reality that makes it all possible. When you watch the show, you see these contestants marooned, seemingly cut off from the entire world, utterly alone with just their thoughts and their fellow competitors. But the truth is they're almost never truly alone, and the production machine operating just out of sight is immense.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here is the sheer effort involved in maintaining that illusion. For example, our sources indicate that there are incredibly strict off-limits zones for the contestants. These are the areas where the production crew sets up their camp, which are often, surprisingly comfortable. While the contestants are sleeping on bamboo or sand, maybe, the crew might have nice utilities, even a buffet in a tent, which is such a stark, almost comical contrast to the meager rice and beans or whatever protein-deprived stuff the contestants are trying to scrounge for themselves. Sometimes, the crew might even be based in a nearby hotel, totally out of sight and earshot of the players. The physical separation is absolutely paramount, with strict boundaries and even security measures in place to ensure no contestant ever accidentally stumbles upon this temporary oasis of comfort.
A buffet in a tent. And hot showers, probably, while the contestants are, enduring hunger and rinsing off in the ocean. It's almost a moral paradox in itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
But how do they ensure the contestants never stumble upon this relatively lavish setup? What are the practical measures in place to keep that illusion airtight?
Well, it's about more than just physical distance. It's an entire ecosystem of control, really. Crews move stealthily, often in the dark, and their camps are deliberately placed in areas that are geographically difficult for contestants to reach by accident, typically miles away from the main beach camps. There are also protocols for what crew members can and cannot do if a contestant were to be seen or heard, usually involving immediately alerting producers and, rerouting.
Right. And it's not just the living situation. Think about those dramatic shots we see of contestants trekking through the jungle, alone with their thoughts, heading to tribal council or maybe to a challenge. It looks like they're just silently navigating the wilderness all by themselves, a lone figure facing their destiny. But what's really happening just out of frame?
Well, in reality, they're almost always transported, often by boat or vehicle, with strict rules in place. They're not allowed to talk during these transfers. And this isn't just a casual suggestion, it's a hard rule. The main reason is to avoid missing any important filming that could impact the narrative or, for them to share information they shouldn't, potentially spoiling a crucial alliance or strategy for the cameras.
Okay, that makes sense. Keep the story contained.
Precisely. And this constant vigilance extends to virtually every moment of their time on the island. Producers and film crews are constantly taking shifts filming the contestants, literally 24/7. Even through the night as they try to sleep or strategize in hushed tones, specialized infrared cameras are used for those night shoots alongside standard cameras like the Sony f800 XD cam. The only time contestants are truly unmonitored is when they need a brief moment in the bathroom, typically in a designated camera-free area. Otherwise, they are quite literally never alone, which just underscores the immersive and all-encompassing nature of the production.
Except for the bathroom break. That level of constant surveillance must be a huge mental drain, just knowing you're always watched. But even with all the harsh conditions and the constant watch, there are a few exceptions to the bare-bones survival they typically endure. We learn that contestants do have access to certain absolute necessities. Things like feminine products, birth control, medications, and contact lens solution are discreetly provided, usually through the medical staff. And for general comfort and safety in that harsh environment, there's typically a small, dedicated tent on each beach with sunscreen and bug spray. So it's not completely wild out there, but certainly a far cry from the crew's relatively plush setup, a constant reminder of their unique manufactured predicament.
Mm-hmm. Which brings us to another highly orchestrated aspect. The challenges themselves. These are truly a meticulous craft, designed to be both physically demanding, mentally taxing, and of course, visually spectacular for the audience. They are not simply thrown together, they are engineered for maximum impact and fairness.
And behind those incredible challenges is a legendary figure, John Kerhofer, the show's challenge designer. Before a single contestant ever steps foot on those elaborate courses, there's a dedicated group of people known as the Dream Team. These are the sort of unsung heroes who tests out all the challenges before the real survivors do. They run through every puzzle, every obstacle, every physical feat to make sure the challenges work, are fair, and, maybe most importantly, are safe. They tweak and refine every little detail until it's just right. Then, before the actual competition begins, the contestants themselves get a chance to walk through the challenge with Kerhofer, where he explains every rule, every nuance. They're even allowed to ask clarifying questions, ensuring a controlled environment that prioritizes understanding and fair play, even amidst all that competitive fire.
And the camera technology they use for these challenges is also incredibly advanced. It creates this really dynamic visual experience. Eric Sarmiento, the lead AC for Challenge, describes an array of up to 16 cameras on the challenge side alone, all working together. This includes massive jib cranes for those sweeping overhead shots, dedicated host cameras with powerful zoom lenses to capture Jeff Probst's reactions, long zooms to pick out subtle expressions, wide lenses to show the full scale of the arena, and even a cable cam that flies across the course for dramatic moving shots. Plus, there are about 10 GoPro POV cameras, often in dome housings for stunning underwater shots, operated by specialists like Sarmiento himself, Mofi Laguna, and Paolo Veloso, making sure every angle of the action, even below the surface, is captured. It's like a symphony of lenses and operators.
That's an incredible amount of equipment and manpower, just for one challenge. It's like a mini Hollywood production happening every few days, designed to capture every bead of sweat and every moment of triumph or despair. And speaking of manpower, the camera crew, who are often overlooked, are truly the unsung heroes of this whole operation. Their lives on Survivor are intense, demanding, and incredibly dedicated.
Indeed. And what's particularly striking is the profound sense of community among this international team. They refer to themselves affectionately as the Survivor family, comprising individuals from South Africa, Brazil, the Philippines, Panama, Tibet, Cambodia, the Dominican Republic, the UK, Australia, America, and Fiji. This incredible diversity isn't just a byproduct, it's a testament to the global talent required and fostered. We even heard about the profound impact of the pandemic with the South African crew, a really significant and highly skilled group, being not allowed in Fiji for a period due to travel restrictions, highlighting their integral and, frankly, irreplaceable role in the production.
Yeah, like Lewis Powell, for example. He's a top-notch reality camera operator who started as an AC, an assistant camera operator, way back on season 16 Micronesia, and worked his way up over 25 seasons. That's amazing. He describes his role as this unique combination of storytelling, self-directing single camera, and dancing multicam, constantly anticipating the narrative. He even met his wife on set, a true Survivor romance. The bond among the crew is apparently so strong, he says, they sometimes communicate without words, mostly eye movements and head nods or snarls and smiles, which is just a testament to their deep understanding and shared experience.
Then there's Eric Sarmiento, who we mentioned earlier, the lead AC for Challenge. He actually started in the Dream Team back on Season 8, Survivor All-Stars, before transitioning behind the camera. He's now responsible for overseeing 8 other ACs and operating those crucial underwater cameras that capture those incredible subsurface moments. And Russ Phil, the second unit director of photography, he has an even longer tenure, having been on an astonishing 39 out of 42 seasons since Marquesas Season 4. That's nearly the whole run. He's legendary for his slow-motion shots, his specialty underwater work, his iconic framing of banners and immunity idols, and increasingly, his breathtaking drone shots and time-lapses. He even uses his personal red Monstro camera to get that high-quality footage. He's also the person who films all the footage you see when Jeff Probst is, explaining the game or leading the contestants.
Wow. And it's not just the veterans, right? Hayden Gilmore, a first-year reality AC on seasons 41 and 42, mentored by the seasoned Josh Bartell, describes her experience as the hardest I have ever pushed my body and my mind as an AC, but in the best way possible. She came to the show with a background as ski patrol, a first responder, and a medic, which, maybe surprisingly, prepared her incredibly well for the physically grueling demands.
Yeah.
She talks about carrying close to half her body weight in camera gear, sometimes starting work drenched from a rainstorm and finishing equally wet hours later, all while navigating dense jungles, dealing with spiders, and yes, as Josh Bartell candidly put it, even having to film smelly people, the contestants themselves, who are, after all, living rough.
And Dionne Jones, another camera operator on Challenges and Tribal Council, she also started her journey on the Dream Team about a decade ago. Her professional soccer background, no doubt, gave her the physical edge and endurance needed for such a demanding role. She recalls a truly chaotic start, being sent to reality beaches during her very first challenge without knowing anything about cameras, and basically learning entirely on the fly from veteran crew members. That highlights the intense, on-the-job training inherent to this unique career path.
Crazy. And then there's Jim Harrington, who has this long, sort of interrupted history with the show. He shot the first 7 seasons, then came back for season 42, having seen the show evolve dramatically. He vividly recalls living in Tent City in the early days, in remote locations like Australia, Africa, and Thailand, where production set up these massive base camps with 300 tents just for the crew. Can you imagine? He emphasizes how much Survivor has grown, noting that the art department alone is now probably 3 times the size. Jim also shares this crucial lesson he learned early on about the art of sequencing my shots, giving the editor every piece he needs from a veteran operator named Matt Stone, an essential skill for single-camera reality filmmaking, where every cut needs to tell a story.
Yeah, the conditions for the crew are consistently tough, working in incredibly remote locations, enduring intense heat, torrential rainstorms, and the occasional spider or, other wildlife. Josh Bartell recounted a particularly challenging period sleeping in tents in Africa for 2 weeks when their village accommodations weren't ready, trying to sleep during the brutal 100-degree heat of the day. It's a testament to their unwavering dedication, often having to start work wet and you're finishing work wet, day in and day out, all to capture the raw, authentic moments of the contestants.
What's also really clear is the rapid technological advancement in their field. Nixon George, who started in 2007 and is now a reality camera operator, came up through the ranks doing POV cameras, point-of-view cameras, for 6 seasons. He noted that the technology changes every year, with cameras constantly shrinking in size, sensors improving exponentially, and sophisticated 360-degree cameras now in play. It's an ongoing effort, a constant race, really, to ensure they have the best tools to get the best job done and capture the increasingly complex dynamics of the game.
And beyond just the technical details of filming, we see the profound influence of the producers and, of course, the host, Jeff Probst. Jeff Probst and the production team are known to arrange the votes in a way that will create the most suspense, specifically to avoid revealing the outcome until the very last vote is read. Now, this isn't about rigging the vote, let's be clear, but strategically sequencing how the votes are read aloud to maximize dramatic tension. Furthermore, producers approve all clothing contestants bring, enforcing strict rules like visible buff logos, and even pre-approving jury clothing after a past incident where a jury member's shirt inadvertently gave away their vote. It's all about controlling the visual narrative.
That's wild. They even go so far as to give contestants code names during their pregame orientation and interviews, where they're strictly not allowed to talk to each other to ensure nobody learns anything about their competition beforehand. They also get a booklet about edible plants, like a crash course in island foraging, though let's be honest, most of them probably stick to rice. The level of control in this pregame bubble before the official start of the game is just absolute. The sheer depth of this operation is truly astounding. It's mind-boggling to think about the level of orchestration required to maintain this real narrative while so much is happening behind the scenes.
Absolutely. The level of control, from wardrobe approval to challenge design to the strategic reading of votes, it consistently underscores that Survivor is a meticulously crafted production. It's a grand illusion, even as it presents itself as a raw, unfiltered social experiment. This meticulous construction shapes not only what we see as viewers, but also profoundly influences the very environment in which the strategic game unfolds for the contestants. It's a brilliant blend of reality and, well, engineered drama.
And that meticulous construction, that grand illusion, brings us perfectly to the actual game itself and its iconic mantra: Outwit, Outplay, Outlast. When Survivor first premiered back in 2000, it instantly captivated audiences not just as a game show, but as this groundbreaking social experiment. The premise was deceptively simple, yet profoundly complex. Put a group of strangers on a remote island, strip them of modern conveniences, force them to provide food, shelter, and fire for themselves, and then have them vote each other out until only one remains. It truly tapped into something primal, didn't it?
Oh, definitely. And what's truly fascinating is how the game has continuously evolved over the past 2 decades, really. While early seasons might have initially favored sheer physical strength or basic survival skills, the Outplay and Outlast elements, players quickly realized that strategy was paramount, that outwitting was the true path to victory. Take Richard Hatch, the winner of the very first season. He wasn't the strongest nor the most physically adept in challenges, but he was incredibly strategic, forming the show's first real alliance, which pretty much carried him all the way to victory. The game then rapidly evolved to emphasize forming alliances and mastering the social dynamics as the primary route to success, almost overshadowing the basic survival aspects sometimes.
Definitely. And the producers, always keen to keep the show fresh and unpredictable, weren't shy about throwing new wrenches into the works. Elements like Redemption Island and Exile Island, for instance, introduced after Season 10, really challenged players by giving voted-out contestants a chance to return or isolating others to test their mental fortitude. But the hidden immunity idol, introduced in Survivor, Guatemala, was an absolute huge game changer. Huge. It offered a lifeline to players on the brink of elimination, allowing them to nullify votes against them, which completely changed the strategic landscape. It added new layers of deception, risk, and suspense, forcing players to constantly reevaluate alliances and, well, trust.
Building on that, a comprehensive Reddit analysis by Ryan Wagner, which sort of synthesizes lessons from all the seasons, outlines several key strategic principles for winning this ever-evolving game. The most important takeaway, undoubtedly, is adaptability. The game is a living, breathing entity, constantly shifting with new twists, unforeseen tribe swaps, alliances forming and breaking in an instant. Winners like Tony Vlachos, known for his chaotic yet brilliant gameplay, and Sandra Diaz-Twine, the only two-time winner, they excelled precisely because they could adjust their strategy based on the shifting dynamics, pivoting their game plan on a dime rather than rigidly sticking to one path.
Exactly. You just cannot go in with only one plan. It's like chess, but the board changes mid-game, right? And then there's the critical art of forming alliances and knowing when to break them. Early alliances provide crucial stability and make sure you don't get voted out first. They are your shield. But as the game progresses, as numbers dwindle, you need to constantly assess which alliances are truly beneficial for your long-term survival and when they might become a liability. Masters of this delicate dance, like the legendary Parvati Shallow and Boston Rob Mariano, they knew precisely when to abandon or betray them without burning too many bridges. They kept that social capital, that ability to still influence, intact, even after a betrayal, which is an extremely rare and difficult skill.
This leads directly into the necessity of balancing social and strategic games. It's a real tightrope walk. It's not enough to be merely well-liked, nor is it enough to be a purely strategic mastermind devoid of human connection. You absolutely need both. Players like Kim Spradlin, known for her incredible social grace, and Jeremy Collins, a master of genuine connections, are cited as examples of those who successfully combined making connections, being likable, the social game, with calculated decisions, manipulating the right people, the strategic game. The social aspect builds the trust you need, while the strategic aspect allows you to actually make the moves that win you the game.
And speaking of moves, making big moves wisely is absolutely crucial in modern Survivor. While big moves are what win you the game, the timing is just so incredibly critical. You need to differentiate between a bold but well-planned move, like Tony Vlachos' masterful blindsides, where he always seemed to have a backup plan, and a move born purely out of desperation that can easily backfire. A well-timed blindside can propel you forward, earning the respect of the jury, but an ill-conceived one can send you home and leave a bitter taste with those you betrayed.
Right. Another often overlooked principle, particularly towards the endgame, is controlling the jury's perception. This is where the social and strategic game truly converge. Your relationships throughout the game, the decisions you make, and crucially, how you manage conflict and explain your actions will heavily influence how the jury ultimately votes. Natalie Anderson is highlighted as someone who excelled at owning her gameplay without alienating her jury, presenting her game with conviction and transparency. The jury needs to respect your game, to admire your strategy, but ideally still like you enough on a personal level to award you the $1,000,000. It's a delicate and often contradictory balance.
Then there's physical prowess, but without overdoing it. Being good enough to avoid early elimination in challenges is certainly important. You don't want to be perceived as dead weight early on, but you also don't want to be too much of a physical threat, making you an obvious target as soon as the individual immunity challenges begin after the merge. Players like Chris Doherty and Natalie White exemplified this, knowing precisely when to coast and when to win a challenge, to stay under the radar until it truly mattered, preserving their energy and avoiding becoming an easy target. It's about strategic strength, not just raw power.
Yeah, and in modern Survivor, idol awareness is pretty much non-negotiable. Whether it's finding hidden immunity idols yourself, often requiring clever puzzle solving or adventurous searching, or staying in the loop about who has them, through keen observation and social intelligence, this knowledge is absolutely crucial. Idols can be used for self-preservation, to nullify votes against you, or to orchestrate powerful blindsides, making them essential tools for controlling the game and shaping its narrative.
And finally, there's the end game. When you reach that final tribal council, after enduring weeks of starvation and strategic maneuvering, you need to have a solid argument and be able to articulate a compelling case for why you deserve to be the sole survivor. This means recalling your strategic moves, the alliances you managed, the social bonds you forged, and how you truly outwit, outplay, and outlasted everyone else. So, to bring it all together, what does this comprehensive list of principles really mean for someone actually playing the game?
Well, what's truly fascinating here is how these broad principles are tested and often contradicted by the complex human element and the show's own design. Theory suggests certain rational behaviors, but the dynamic social interactions, individual personalities, and deeply personal motivations often lead to deviations. It's a constant dynamic interplay between a theoretically rational game and the often irrational, unpredictable nature of human behavior. The rules give a framework, sure, but people populate it with all their messy, wonderful, and surprising traits.
That's a great point, because sometimes to really understand those messy dynamics, you need to step back and look at the numbers to find patterns where intuition might fail. And that's exactly what Ryan Wagner did with an economist's lens, performing a sophisticated regression analysis on 40 seasons of Survivor data. Think of it like this. They put all the numbers into a big statistical machine to see if they could predict what factors, like a player's age or how many challenges they won, consistently led to someone staying longer or finishing higher in the game. They focus on two dependent variables, meaning the outcomes they were trying to predict, the days a player spent in the game, and their ultimate finish position.
And the initial findings on what are called immutable traits, characteristics players can't change, like age and sex, are quite interesting and maybe defy some common assumptions. Surprisingly, age has almost no effect on how far a player makes it into the game. The model predicted that for every additional 10 years of age, a player would stay in the game for only a negligible 0.3 days longer, barely anything. This suggests a fascinating trade-off. Older players might struggle physically in early tribal challenges, making them potential targets, sure, but they could become more valuable later in the game when individual challenges come into play. They might be perceived as less of a physical threat, making them easier to beat in a sprint or an endurance challenge by younger, stronger players, thus maybe extending their strategic utility.
Okay, interesting. And then there's sex. This finding was a bit more surprising and, frankly, maybe counterintuitive for some. The analysis found that, holding all other factors constant, a female player is predicted to play in the game for 1.6 days longer compared to male players. That's a statistically significant difference. To explain this, two main hypotheses were explored, both offering pretty compelling insights into how gender dynamics play out in this unique social experiment.
Right. The first hypothesis suggests a physical threat reduction. On average, men are indeed stronger and more athletic, and the data backs this up. They win 64% of individual reward challenges and 63% individual immunity challenges. This makes them bigger, more obvious targets after the merge, as other players strategically want to eliminate physical threats who could dominate later in individual competitions. Females, being perceived as less of a dominant physical threat on average, might be kept around longer by the stronger players who want easier competition, or perhaps by others looking for a more compliant alliance member.
Okay, that makes sense strategically. What's the other idea?
The second hypothesis points to trustworthiness and agreeableness as key factors. Research indicates that women, on average, rank higher for levels of agreeableness, a personality trait linked to altruism, kindness, a willingness to trust, and affection. In a game like Survivor, where forming and maintaining alliances is absolutely everything, this quality might make female players more likely to create trustworthy alliances. In an environment where betrayal is common and suspicion runs high, having a more agreeable, seemingly loyal ally could be an incredibly highly valued and ultimately game-extending trait. It means a female player might be seen as a safer bet for a long-term alliance, which buys them time.
Interesting. So moving to mutable traits, characteristics that players can change or influence through their gameplay, like challenge wins and finding idols, what did the data show there?
Well, the data also provides very clear and actionable insights there. Winning tribal challenges, both reward and immunity, significantly increases game time by 2.7 days and 2.6 days, respectively. This clearly shows their immediate benefit in keeping a tribe safe from tribal council, avoiding the need to vote out one of their own. Pretty straightforward.
Makes sense. And individual challenges.
Similarly, winning individual challenges has a strong and immediate impact. Both individual reward and individual immunity challenge wins predict a player staying 3.1 days longer in the game. This makes perfect sense for individual immunity challenges, as winning one explicitly protects you for roughly 3 days until the next tribal council.
But here's the fascinating, genuinely counterintuitive revelation from the data: the reward challenge paradox. You'd instinctively expect immunity to be the ultimate prize, right? Survival. But the analysis shows that winning a reward challenge, which offers no direct benefits in staying in the game longer, only comfort, food, or a brief break, has an impact on a player's longevity, almost identical to winning an immunity challenge. This isn't just about a comfy night or a full belly. It speaks volumes about the power of social capital. It means the bonds and loyalty you build by taking allies on a reward, sharing that comfort and food, are often just as crucial, if not more, than keeping yourself safe from a single tribal council. Wow.
Yeah, it's really significant. And then there's the direct, tangible impact of hidden immunity idols. The analysis shows that simply finding an idol, regardless of whether it's played correctly or not, is predicted to increase game time by 2.7 days. This aligns almost perfectly with that average 3-day cycle between tribal councils. It's important to note this is about finding an idol, which gives a player a profound sense of security and power. Even if they never use it or misplay it, the mere possession alters their game and how other players perceive them.
Right. The knowledge itself is power. Now, one of the most telling findings you mentioned comes from what's called the season effect. By using dummy variables for each season, which is basically a way in statistics to represent qualitative data numerically, allowing us to see if certain seasons had a unique impact on game length beyond other factors. The model showed that players in seasons 22, 38, and 40 stayed 7, 9, and 11 days longer, respectively, compared to the average of other seasons. That's a huge difference. What caused that?
Well, these significantly longer stays were directly attributable to specific rule changes implemented in those particular seasons. Season 22, Survivor, Redemption Island, and similar premises found in seasons 38, Edge of Extinction, and 40, Winners at War, which also featured Edge of Extinction. They all allowed voted-out players a chance to get back into the main game. This profoundly altered the structure of the game, directly increasing the potential duration a player could stay in contention even after being technically eliminated from their tribe. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, these numbers really highlight how specific rule tweaks introduced by production can profoundly alter player incentives and outcomes, sometimes in dramatic and unexpected ways. It shows the incredible power of the production to shape the game's very nature and length, essentially rewriting the algorithm of survival.
Absolutely. Those rule changes are like changing the very algorithms of the game, profoundly affecting how players interact. And that's where game theory comes in, trying to explain the complex, often unpredictable behaviors that the numbers alone can't fully capture. The regression model we just discussed, while powerful, only explained about 59% of the variation in how many days a player stays in the game. That leaves a significant other 40% that's almost certainly attributable to game theory and the complex, messy, and, let's face it, fascinating world of human interactions.
Right. Survivor can be seen as a repeated prisoner's dilemma game played out over weeks. Let's imagine two allied players, player A and player B. Every 3 days before tribal council, they implicitly play this game. They can choose to be loyal to each other, or one can choose to flip and betray the other. If both are loyal, they might both gain utility, staying safe together for another round. But if one flips while the other remains loyal, the flipper gains more utility, maybe building their resume as strategic and aggressive, while the loyal player gets blindsided. If both flip, well, they both lose control and gain minimal utility, creating chaos. The best outcome for you, theoretically, is to betray while your partner stays loyal.
Okay, I follow. And the repeated aspect of this is absolutely key, you said.
Exactly. In most real-world repeated games where the players don't know when the game will end, like a business partnership with no fixed-term research by the political scientist Robert Axelrod, suggests players tend towards loyalty and cooperation. They want to avoid a destructive cycle of mutual betrayal that leaves everyone worse off in the long run. They build trust because they know they'll have to deal with each other again and again.
But Survivor isn't like that.
No. Survivor adds a crucial, game-changing twist. We know when the game ends, either when a player is voted out or when they make it to the final tribal council. This fundamentally changes the dynamic, leading to what's known as the backwards induction argument in game theory. Benoit's research suggests that in a repeated game with a known end, the Nash equilibrium, that stable state where no player can improve their situation by changing strategy is to never be loyal, but instead always flip. The theoretical logic is this. In the very last possible iteration of the game, say just before the final 3, you'd betray to maximize your personal gain, knowing that your opponent would then betray you in the second to last iteration to preempt your move, and so on. It just spirals all the way back to day 1. Theoretically, every player should be backstabbing from the outset.
That's such a wild theoretical outcome. It means the purely rational game theory optimal strategy would be for everyone to betray everyone from day 1. But as we clearly see just by watching the game, this theoretical Nash equilibrium doesn't match real-world play on Survivor. People do form loyal alliances, and they do cooperate for significant periods. This discrepancy means there must be some extra benefit to cooperation and staying loyal that the pure mathematical model doesn't account for. It could be added trustworthiness or genuine care for the other player that extends beyond mere self-interest, or maybe the social cost of betrayal.
The tricky part of Survivor is precisely this complexity. Players don't know each other's exact utility or value for loyalty versus flipping. They're playing this dilemma with multiple people, not just one, creating this web of conflicting interests. Furthermore, even if you could perfectly predict when an ally might flip on you, there's a significant social cost to flipping on them first. You risk instantly looking like the bad guy, the ruthless traitor, and becoming untrustworthy to any future allies or, crucially, to the jury. In a game built on relationships, where perception is everything, that can often be a social death sentence, even if it was theoretically the optimal move.
Right, the social fallout. This deep dive into player incentives also forces us to challenge a very fundamental assumption many viewers and even players make, that all players come on the show with the goal of winning the $1 million.
Yeah.
The truth is, once players assess their competition and compare strengths and weaknesses out there on the island, their goals can change pretty dramatically. The $1 million is a powerful motivator, sure, but it's not the only one.
Exactly. For players who quickly realize they have no resume, meaning they haven't found idols, won challenges, or made big strategic moves, or who struggle to win in challenges against stronger competitors, their incentive might subtly shift. Instead of aiming for the grand prize, their goal might become strictly making it to the finale. While first place wins $1 million, second place still earns a substantial $100,000, and third place takes home $85,000. Not bad, right? These players, sometimes maybe derisively called sheep, can be strategically valuable to bigger players who want someone easier to beat at the very end. They become a means to an end for a stronger player.
That shift in goals also brings us back to the earlier discussion on gender differences in outcomes. You said female players are predicted to finish 0.9 spots lower, meaning better, numerically higher on the list of finishers in the game. But there's that striking paradox in who ultimately wins. Female players are just as likely to make it to the finale, with a near 50-50 split of 51% male, 49% female in the top 3, yet when it comes to actually winning, the distribution is 63% male and only 37% female. So they make it to the end, but they don't win as often. Why is that?
Well, this disparity could be explained by the nature of their resumes that they present to the jury. Males are statistically more likely to win individual challenges and find hidden immunity idols, accounting for 68% of all idols found. These are quantifiable elements, concrete numbers, and visible feats you can point to for a jury. I won 3 immunities. I found 2 idols. I orchestrated this blindside. Easy to list. Female resumes, however, often involve traits like trustworthiness and loyalty, strong social bonds or sociability, which are much harder to quantify or compare in a final argument. I built strong relationships versus I won an immunity idol often doesn't resonate the same way with the jury looking for flashy gameplay, even if the social game was equally vital in getting them to the end.
That's a really crucial distinction. And let's not forget a relatively newer but increasingly significant factor, the social media effect. In today's world, some players might join Survivor not solely for the prize money, but with a strong motivation for fame or popularity. For these players, stirring up the pot, creating drama and chaos, might be a deliberate strategy to gain a large following and the potential to become influencers after the show, rather than solely winning the title of sole survivor. While production tries to vet these motivations during casting, it's definitely a factor that can subtly shift a player's strategic objectives away from purely winning the game and towards gaining a different kind of reward, the currency of social media engagement.
Yeah, this raises an important question. How do you factor in these deeply personal, often shifting and sometimes hidden motivations when trying to predict or analyze a game so dependent on human interaction? It moves beyond pure logic into the realm of behavioral economics, really, where perceived value, social capital, and personal branding become just as important as strategic moves.
This changes the entire lens through which we view the game, doesn't it? If winning isn't the only goal for every player, it transforms Survivor from just a physical challenge into this incredibly profound study of human behavior, motivations, and even behavioral economics. It highlights how the internal goals of players, not just the external rules, profoundly shape the game, often in ways we don't realize while watching. So Survivor is this incredible, intense microcosm of human interaction, strategy, and decision-making under extreme pressure. What does it truly mean for the real world we inhabit every day? Well, it turns out the strategic principles of Survivor surprisingly and often profoundly mirror successful business practices and even general life skills. The lessons from the island extend far beyond tropical beaches.
Absolutely. Let's start with leadership. Balancing tasks versus relationships. On Survivor, leaders who focus solely on tasks, tirelessly building shelter, constantly gathering food, maybe barking orders without also actively building relationships, and fostering trust often become early targets. They're seen as transactional, easily disposable. The social leaders who forge genuine trust and alliances, who listen and empathize, are often far more successful at guiding their tribe. In the business world, it's similar. A manager who focuses only on metrics and deadlines without fostering trust, communication, or empathy can quickly alienate their team, leading to low morale and high turnover.
Right. A great business parallel here is Microsoft's cultural transformation under CEO Satya Nadella. He consciously shifted the company from a combative, internally competitive environment, often described as a culture of know-it-alls, to a collaborative, learn-it-all culture, emphasizing both performance and people. Just like a survivor tribe's unity and social cohesion can determine its success and challenges, a leader who builds a supportive, relationship-driven culture in an organization will consistently see better engagement, loyalty, and innovation. It's about leading with emotional intelligence, not just authority.
Exactly. Next, consider adaptability, navigating change. Survivor constantly introduces new twists, unforeseen tribe swaps, hidden immunity idols emerging from nowhere, sudden rule changes, unpredictable weather. The winners are consistently those who can pivot their strategy on a dime, who are ready to change plans overnight when the game takes an unexpected turn. This inherent flexibility and mental agility is absolutely paramount to long-term survival.
And the business world is no different. In fact, it's often more volatile. Companies must continuously evolve or risk obsolescence. Think about Netflix's incredible transformation from the DVD by mail service, remember those red envelopes, to a global streaming powerhouse. They embraced technological change, invested heavily in new infrastructure and original content, and fundamentally adapted their entire business model. This stands in stark contrast to companies like Blockbuster or Kodak, which famously failed to adapt to new market realities and were consequently left behind, basically relegated to history. Adaptability, as research consistently shows, is a key component of resilience research in the corporate world. It's the ability to not just survive change, but to thrive within it.
Hmm. Then there's alliances and team dynamics. The power of trust. In Survivor, the adage, no one wins alone, is undeniably true. Strong, trusted alliances provide safety in numbers, offering protection from being voted out, and are typically maintained by constant communication and reassurance. Boston Rob Mariano's extreme but effective alliance management in Redemption Island, where he cultivated an almost cult-like loyalty and even forbade one-on-one talks with outsiders among his core alliance, is a classic, albeit maybe controversial, example of building unshakable trust. These alliances built on shared goals, mutual benefit, and consistent, transparent communication.
And in business, professional cultures likewise hinge on the power of alliances, both internal and external. High-performing teams within organizations resemble strong survivor alliances, built on trust and mutual commitment towards a common goal. Looking externally, strategic alliances, like that groundbreaking partnership between Uber and Spotify for seamless music streaming integration, show how companies achieve more together than they could alone. It's all about shared vision, mutual benefit, and a clear understanding of each other's contributions. Without trust, these alliances just crumble, just like on the island.
This brings us to risk management. Balancing bold moves and caution. Every single move in Survivor is a calculated risk calculation. Bold moves like a well-timed blindside or playing an idol on someone else can yield big rewards, propelling a player to victory and earning jury respect. But conversely, they can also backfire spectacularly, sending a player home in humiliation. Playing too cautiously, just sitting on the sidelines and waiting for others to make moves, is often a slow death sentence. Winners consistently take calculated risks at the right time, carefully weighing the odds and potential consequences, understanding that inaction is also a choice with its own risks.
And entrepreneurs and businesses face a very similar tightrope walk. Failure to take risks can mean stagnation and irrelevance, as Kodak discovered by clinging to film photography. But reckless gambles are equally dangerous. Amazon's decision to launch Amazon Web Services, AWS, was a significant risk at the time, diverting substantial resources into an unproven cloud computing market. Yet it paid off handsomely, becoming one of Amazon's biggest growth drivers and fundamentally changing the tech landscape. Strategic risk management, knowing when to strike out boldly with a well-researched plan and when to stick with a safe choice, is key to both surviving and thriving in highly competitive environments.
Finally, there's resilience, bouncing back from adversity. Survivor is, at its core, a mental and physical endurance test, pushing contestants through hunger, extreme fatigue, social conflict, and the constant threat of elimination. Chris Underwood's incredible comeback in Edge of Extinction, where he was voted out on day 8, spent weeks battling on a separate island, returned on day 35, and ultimately won the game, epitomized this resilience and profound mental toughness. He faced the ultimate defeat and found a way to not just recover, but conquer.
And in the business world, organizational resilience is a company's ability to absorb a shock, recover quickly, and even come out stronger on the other side. Think about companies that rapidly pivoted to online ordering or curbside pickup during the unprecedented challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic compared to those that couldn't or wouldn't adapt and ultimately failed. Resilient organizations foster a culture of learning and flexibility, treating setbacks and crises not as insurmountable obstacles, but as opportunities for growth and innovation. It's truly about outlasting the hardships, both physically and strategically. It really makes you think, doesn't it? The game of Survivor is a masterclass in so many aspects of life, from leadership to enduring the impossible.
Indeed. And these aren't just abstract concepts for a reality TV show. Organizations like Desert Island Survival, which teaches genuine wilderness survival skills, even connect survivor strategies to actual real-world survival. Adaptability to changing conditions, social strategy, and building trust in a small group, immense physical and mental stamina, impeccable timing for critical decisions, and sheer persistence. These are principles taught for genuine wilderness survival scenarios.
So whether you're trying to outwit a rival, outplay the competition, or simply outlast a challenging situation, the lessons gleaned from Survivor provide invaluable insights into both game strategy and real-world survival. It truly is a profound study in how humans interact under pressure, with consequences that extend far beyond the idyllic yet treacherous island setting. Hashtag outro outtone. Wow, what an incredible journey through the fascinating world of Survivor. We've pulled back the curtain on its hidden production realities, glimpsed the lives of the incredible dedicated crew who make the magic happen, and deconstructed the intricate strategic dance of game theory and human psychology. And finally, we've explored its profound, surprising parallels in successful business practices and even real-world survival.
Yeah, we've seen that the illusion of isolation is meticulously maintained by a massive, sophisticated production machine. We've analyzed how immutable traits like agent sex and mutable ones like challenge wins and idle finds statistically influence a player's journey. And we've delved into the complex game theory that explains alliances and betrayals, recognizing that human motivations often diverge from purely rational outcomes, leading to unpredictable, captivating social dynamics.
Ultimately, understanding these intricate layers provides you with far more value than just a typical news item. It offers deep, actionable insights into human behavior, decision-making under intense pressure, and the crucial ability to adapt to constant change, whether you're building alliances on a remote island, leading a team in an office, or navigating unforeseen challenges in your personal life. The ability to outwit, outplay, and outlast extends far beyond the final tribal council, touching nearly every aspect of our lives. So let me leave you with this provocative thought. Considering all we've discussed today, if you were dropped onto that island tomorrow, knowing what you now know about the game, the production, and human psychology, would your primary goal truly be to win the $1 million? Or would a well-played social game for a guaranteed finale spot and that substantial $100,000 second prize maybe be the savvier, more realistic move? And what unquantifiable traits do you value most in your allies when the stakes are highest, whether it's on an island or in your daily life?
The desire to understand and apply knowledge, much like the game itself, is a continuous journey. We hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity. Keep looking for these strategies in your own life and the world around you because the game, in some form, is always being played.